Hmm?
Hey sir?
Yes, what is it?
Sorry to bother you, but it's finally time for us to start that review channel we've been thinking about for a while. Elden Ring is still pretty popular these days, and there's also that new Borderlands or Kirby game that came out. You could try reviewing one of those if you...
Shut up. Get out. I'm reviewing the fish. Ah, Fishy. The game about the anthropomorphic fish skin from Fortnite trapped in his own personal platforming hell. I couldn't think of a better way to break in a new channel personally. But first, just what is Fishy? Fishy is a free-to-play, hidden indie darling on Steam, published and developed by one Keron, a Missouri-based 3D environment artist, whose other notable contributions to gaming include World Left Behind, a free-to-play zombie game, and two other Fishy games. Quite the catalog. Fishy was released on September 20th, 2019, and over the past couple of years has been met with very positive acclaim, with a whopping 94% on Steam. Granted, most of the reviews of the game are, I'll put it less credible, but surely it has some good aspects, right? Fishy keeps it very straightforward with how the game operates. The game tasks the player with controlling the titular character, Fishy. While completing a gauntlet of levels across various worlds. The game has its basic movement controls of your walls and jumping, and you can kind of bunny hop if you do it right, but that's about as advanced as you'll get for movement. There's also these little like metal nut looking things that you can collect, and the only real purpose that I can see is for you to just sit there and ponder them. But in reality, they really serve no real use outside of boosting your own ego and scratching that little simian itch. So unless you're one of those crackheads that want to speedrun 100%ing the game, there's no reason to think about them really. Moving on to the main part of the game, Fishy has all the standard worlds of a typical platformer. We got the starter jungle oasis, the water world,
I am under the water.
the frozen tundra, a hellish volcano,
Krakatoa!
and then let's not forget the industry staple of
The Matrix Cube.
Wait, what? This is supposed to be a space map? You want me to look up? Would you look at that? Stars. Each world has like 5 levels apiece, with all of them being fairly simple. Alongside this, they all have their own little gimmick or two that you gotta watch out for, with the only exception being the starter world, which really doesn't have any unique challenge to it unless you're, I don't know, prone to falling into gaping holes. They also introduced rotating platforms in the last couple of levels that continue to appear throughout the rest of the game, but once you learn to use the momentum from jumping to your advantage, they aren't really a big problem. The water world is where things get kicked up a notch. This world introduces something totally unheard of in any platform-based game ever. If you so much as get within a foot of a spike, Fishy just ragdolls and then you reset to the last checkpoint. Now normally this won't be a problem, but there are a few rare occurrences where if you're less inclined to use your noggin, you could end up dying a few times. An example of this would be where in one level there's just this rotating cylinder with a bunch of holes in it. You gotta cross it in order to finish, but if you get stuck in the path of a spike or go near one of the holes, you instantly just get sucked in and consumed by the void. With all that being said, I personally think that the mechanics introduced in this world are pretty solid, and they get used pretty frequently throughout the rest of the game, as you'll see in a little bit. The ice world doesn't offer that much that isn't already in other worlds. It introduces, well, which surprisingly, the player is able to slide on. However, it's only present for the first level, which is kind of a waste if you ask me. The actual gimmick introduced for this world comes in the form of these shifting platforms that change over a short period. The easiest way to solve this problem is just timing your jumps to where you land at the exact moment they change, and that way you negate any risk of plummeting to the bottom of the map and being turned into a giant frozen fish stick. Overall, they aren't that big of an obstacle unless you're big, dumb, silly, stupid, fucking idiot. But that's not very likely. Now, before I move on to the next world, I do think that it's worth noting that there is this one stupid fucking level where it makes you pick between this, like, left and right tube, and one of the tubes is, like, the finish line, and the other one's supposed to be, like, you fall to your death, or some shit, right? Now, when I first played this world, when I first played this level, I decided, oh, I'm gonna waltz right on off the platform. Nothing bad's gonna happen, right? And normally, me being stupid, it would mean that I would die and get reset. Unfortunately, that's not what ended up happening. What ended up happening was, I made it to the bottom of the map, and I was able to walk around just fine. Just minding my own little fish business, just waltzing all over the place. And at the time, there was no way to reset to the main menu. All I could do was quit the game and then start all over, which was a real kick in the pants. But enough about my problems. After his quick trip to the freezer, Fishy tries to defrost himself and accidentally makes it to where he truly belongs.
Ow.
This world doesn't introduce anything new mechanics-wise, rather, it improves upon pre-established concepts like the moving platforms and spikes, although I use the term improve very lightly. In reality, Keron just poked some holes in a few red platforms and made a rectangle rotate very awkwardly. That being said, the levels themselves can take a couple of tries to beat if you aren't careful. I will point out that the stupid tubes make an unwelcome return, but this time you get lifted up into them instead of dropping down. With this also comes a glitch where if you end up dying or miss getting into a tube, the platforms will just keep respawning and go through their set animation loops. The good news is you're still able to complete the level, so it's not like it's a problem. In all honesty, this world kind of left me disappointed, and I would have liked to see fire get used in some capacity, but I will settle for the stock PNG image of fire plastered across the skybox.
So cozy. Make me want touch. Wait.
After Fishy's brief romp in the depths of the underworld, he breaks through the simulation, and the final world is a cyberscape of moving platforms, hard to distinguish boundaries, and various other obstacles. Something unique this world has to offer is one level where the floor is invisible, and you're guided through by arrows on the wall. It's an interesting mechanic that could have had massive potential if it were implemented on a larger scale for like a big maze level or even a maze world, but unfortunately, like many other mechanics in the game, it's only used once. Now, while that in and of itself is disappointing to me, I will give credit where credit is due and admit that the overall level layout for this world is a huge improvement in comparison to the other worlds, and they definitely show a more creative side to the game previously that was only given in tiny little teases. In my opinion, if the rest of the game had level designs and ideas like this last world, I think it would have gotten a lot more positive response from me. Anyways, after completing the last cyber level, that's it. Game done. Wrap it up, folks. Nothing more to see here. Roll credits. I'm ready to get out of here. Review done. What? Wait a minute. Hold on. Wait. Huh? What's that? Stop it. Stop it. Pause. Stop it. Hey, peel back those obvious blurs on the menu there. What the hell is that? Endless mode? Bonus levels? EX levels? Fishy 2? Okay. So the Fishy 2 portion is just 10 levels from the sequel that's meant to be a bit of a cheeky teaser to get you to buy it, but holy shit, there is a lot more content to this game than is let on. The bonus stuff equals out to like 30 more levels and shows a lot of new mechanics which didn't end up making the cut for the main game, which I think is phenomenal. Starting off with the first 10 bonus levels, the first level is literally just a rotating platform. Off to a stellar start. The second level is just more moving spikes. At the very least, timing your movement to get past the spikes going around the exit can take a couple of tries. So far, the running theme for the bonus levels is disappointingly that they're just more of the same. Holy shit, he brought ice back! If this is the kind of pacing that the next few levels are going to have, I am so excited. What the fuck is that? At first, I had no idea how to interpret what I was seeing before me. My first thought was initially that Keron noticeably skipped the volcano world and immediately made the jump to the space world. I guess he could only fulfill one of my wishes and decided to re-implement the ice instead of making firework. Oh well. This thought was then promptly followed by me blindly walking off the spawn platform and subsequently falling through the platform before me. This is an entirely new mechanic which comes in the form of a multi-section platform that routinely shifts between solidity and thin air, with blue meaning good, and red meaning a one-way ticket to the void. While this, in and of itself, was a learning curve, the addition of the moving spikes upped the ante and led to me misjudging how safe a jump could be. I really liked the introduction to this mechanic, and seeing it get used more later on was great. Speaking of getting used later on, shifting platforms made an immediate return in the next level with both a new mechanic and a new world border to boot. Upon walking across the platforms, you get met with what appears to be a lava pit, which you're assumably supposed to have to jump over onto I guess, invisible platform and then make it to the end. Upon putting that into practice, I quickly learned that that was not the end goal. After that, I decided to experiment a bit and then soon found out that the real goal was to get this. Use the lava pool like a trampoline and then launch myself to the exit. It was a very weird yet somehow very fitting mechanic that I very quickly grew fond of and was very disappointed to see that it never returned. After my Gigabrain activities, I swiftly traded my newfound excitement for shallow disappointment when I was met with apparently a complete straight shot to the exit. This killed my mood, and I didn't even bother moving my mouse to check for anything, and then suddenly, Fishy just keeled over and died right before my very eyes. Keron had managed to make yet another new mechanic, this time in the form of heat-seeking beavers. The rodents have a constant tracking to you and will follow you wherever you go, but to compensate, they're very slow. I will say, however, that there exists a glitch where if you manage to die, Fishy can sometimes spawn away from the platform and just commit to a near-endless death loop, which is a pain in the ass. After watching Fishy suffer for long enough, sometimes he does spawn back on the platform, and sometimes the beavers will come back and finish what they started and kill you, and then the loop repeats. After escaping the rodent horde, Keron's desire to make AI enemies become more evident, and this time, instead of hat-wearing beavers, you start to square up against a flock of dead-eyed, soulless chickens. The same bugs apply at this level too, which came as no shock on my end. Honestly, in terms of new mechanics introduced in these levels, I think I'm finding the AI enemies to be the least interesting. Coming off of that disappointment, I expected a third AI level in a row, and was immediately proven wrong by the sight laid before me. The idea of giant snakes shooting coconuts at me that I would have to dodge in order to finish a level was definitely not on my list of expected outcomes for a game about a fish with legs, but maybe I just have terrible hindsight. Who knows? After avoiding a barrage of coconuts, the shifting platforms made yet another appearance, and this time they brought a decent challenge with them. Now, a wall of spikes blocked both the entrance and the exit of the level, and they would change in tandem with the platforms. This level took a decent amount of time to master for me, and genuinely it might be my favorite out of this batch. Finally, the last level of this first batch of bonus levels presents you with quite a conundrum. The only thing separating Fishy and the exit is a vast expanse of a void and a volley of spikes. At first, I thought that this level was going to be literally impossible to beat. I started taking running jumps and dying over and over, and I started to grow more frustrated each and every time. Then, I noticed something new at the bottom of the screen. There was a number of jumps tally that was added for this level and this level only. Curious, I decided to jump and saw that the tally went up. Then upon jumping again, I had an extra jump added to Fishy, and then another, and then another. After a few extra jumps were added to my kit, I was able to clear the gap with ease. With that satisfying conclusion, that was the end of the first 10 bonus levels. I was genuinely surprised at the level of new content that was put into some of those levels, They really had me with the first couple, I'm not gonna lie, but man, did they bring it on home after they started introducing the new stuff. Now, it's time to dive into the EX levels and show off what they had to offer. The EX levels start off very strongly with the introduction of a brand new setting, which I can only describe as a crude recreation of what I can imagine the inside of a Duracell factory would look like. Also worth noting was the new exit portal design, which looked a lot better in comparison to the one from the base game. The next level was beyond interesting to me. Fishy is back in the water world and you're presented with a straight shot to the end, but there's a glowing cube sitting in the middle of the path. You could just walk past it and finish the level, but the little voices in my head kept screaming at me to interact with it, and upon pressing it, a volley of spikes fall from the ceiling, and then you gotta path your way around them to finish. Well, that mechanic in and of itself is interesting. What really grabbed my attention was how the level was seemingly unfinished. While the spikes dropped from the ceiling, so too did their hitboxes, which were exactly that, boxes. The spikes themselves can't hurt you, rather it's just a box with an automatic kill zone that the spikes are meant to be stuck in. Normally you wouldn't notice it, but in this level, the spikes can sometimes fall outside of their dead zones and become solid objects that you can interact with. Curious to know more, I decided to backtrack to other levels and test if this was consistent with other moving spikes, and sure enough, it was. If you're capable and quick enough to position yourself directly in the line of fire of a spike, the very tip of it will poke through the kill zone and it'll be able to push you along its designated path. With this newfound information, I also learned that you can stand on the very top of spikes as they move, but it was very difficult to pull off. It's an interesting design flaw that if it weren't for this bonus level, I wouldn't have even thought to look for. The third EX level brings back the shifting platforms with a bit of a catch at the end, which I did not expect, but overall, it was straightforward and pretty simple. The next level brought us back to the battery factory and... wait, where's the platforms? How the fuck am I supposed to make it to the end with no Oh, they're invisible. Moving on to speed up the pace, the rest of the EX levels show immense amounts of imagination by modifying the new mechanics introduced in the first 4 levels, such as a box that instead of dropping spikes, takes them away, combining the shifting platforms with invisible platforms, and moving invisible platforms with invisible spikes. Overall, the EX levels were again a great showcase of potential new mechanics, and it's really a shame that none of them made it into the base level roster, because I personally would have had so much more fun playing levels with this level of innovation instead of the stuff that was in the base game. Finally, on to Fishy 2. The opening for the Fishy 2 levels was a bit slow in my opinion. The first couple of levels just weren't all that interesting to me, but by the third level, I could clearly see a definitive upswing in level layout design. There's so much more variety in the level designs with this batch of levels, and a common theme introduced in them is expanding upon the Y-axis. Some levels force you to factor in needing to drop down to a lower platform and avoid falling into the abyss below. Gone are the days of numbly walking forward, now you have to walk forward, but down. Also, a funny little side note here, in each of the Fishy 2 levels, Keron self-inserted himself with the same photo that he loves, in the form of a cube, so he can watch us progress through his gauntlet. However, Keron is strictly meant to be observed, and not at all interacted with, as I learned the hard way. Oh my god, what the fuck? Overall, even though the community seemingly has its gripes with the Fishy 2 levels, with some even going out and claiming that they were actually just ripped layouts from a Super Monkey Ball game, stolen or not, I still prefer them to some of the original levels. I'm not gonna name names, but they know who they are. Personally, I liked a lot of the bonus content more than the base game, and they made me wish that I was playing a game with just those aspects rather than have them just be tacked on as extra. It would have been a better alternative to what we instead have, where every world you would just have to sit there and go, oh boy, another level with a rotating platform. My favorite. With that being said, don't start thinking I neglected a certain aspect of the game. I'll get to endless mode in its own little sub-chapter. I got some choice words about it. The way endless mode is handled, it gets very frustrating very fast. You start off by getting thrown into a random world out of the main 5 from the base game, and then it's just you, the starting platform, and then the end zone, with just a massive void in between. You blindly step forward praying that something would happen, and then suddenly more platforms and obstacles load in. It's not a terrible way to generate an endless gauntlet of levels in theory, but when putting pen to paper, it's a terrible way to generate an endless gauntlet of levels, and it gets to be near migraine-inducing at times. platforms. The main problem that I and a lot of others have with this mode is that until you get within an indeterminable amount of space from where the obstacles and platforms will spawn, there's just blank air. You're legitimately just jumping into a potential void every time, hoping that you don't get bad RNG. It solves the problem of some mechanics from the base levels being underused and opens the ability for stuff to transfer from different worlds, creating new and interesting scenarios, but that just doesn't make up for the crappy way that it's presented. On top of this, the mode has so many glitches. One in particular causes you to spawn away from the beginning platform if you die, similar to the AI enemies from the levels prior, and it doesn't even need to be an abnormal death. Just simply failing a jump onto an at the time invisible platform could trigger it, and suddenly you're just stuck in a loop of endless death. Another infuriating part of it is where you can get many of the same objects to spawn one after another, and it makes the level unplayable. I'd like to see someone try and get past 3 large rotating platforms at Mach 10 while a spike is glitching into them. It's not feasible. That combined with a lack of additional exclusive mechanics or inclusions of mechanics from the extra levels from the bonus content, it just makes the mode not worth playing and easily makes it my least favorite mode out of the whole spread. Now, before I wrap up the video, there are a few extra subject areas I want to touch on in one final chapter. Alright, first off is animation. This one should be quite quick to go over in relation to the stuff I've been rambling on for God knows how long. The animations in the game don't really leave all too much to write home about. Fishy moves, Fishy jumps. There's no idle animation outside of him doing a little swaying bounce while he's A-posing. It's better than him just A-posing throughout the entire game, but even then, that rears its ugly head if you get glitched into an object. I'm not gonna bash the game for looking the way it does. I think it looks fine, honestly, considering that it was made just by one person and most likely it didn't take Keron that long to make. For an indie platformer about a fish jumping aimlessly from one platform to the next, the animations do what they were meant to do. The one aspect of the animation side of the game that I absolutely love, however, it's gotta be the ragdolls. Having ragdoll physics in a game is a guilty pleasure of mine, and watching your body flail off into the horizon or slump over a ledge after dying, it greatly takes the edge off of witnessing your own failure. It's amusing to see Fishy's limbs suddenly turn into wet noodles as his body moves in manners unfit for real life. Ragdoll physics definitely is a huge plus for Fishy, and they managed to make me smile seeing the funny fish man go flying after touching a spike. The final aspect that I'd like to touch on real quick is the music. Fishy's soundtrack contains a very limited list of songs, but again, given the fact that it is a relatively short game and everything was done by just one person, it isn't that big of an issue. Each world has either an actual song or some form of ambiance to it. While you only end up hearing the first 10 seconds of the track before switching levels and having it start over, it beats the alternative of just pure silence with only the cartoon jump sound effects to keep you company. Personally, I think the game could have benefited greatly from having the tracks flow seamlessly from level to level as opposed to restarting each time, especially for the worlds that had an actual track to them like the jungle or ice ones. It just feels like it's a waste to have some worlds have songs in them, but you only end up listening to the beginning and only the beginning. Alright, now it's finally time for the big wrap up. In conclusion, all these things combined to me say that Fishy is a fairly decent indie platformer with at least a little bit of effort put into it that evidently a decent amount of people, myself included, enjoyed. If you play your cards right and don't manage to fuck up any of the jumps, you could feasibly complete each section of the game in no time, so it's not like the game will ever be a major time sink. In fact, there's even a speedrunning community for it that's able to complete it in just like a minute. Is it perfect? No. Absolutely not. Did I have fun playing it? Yeah. Definitely. Have I spent more time on this review than I did playing the actual game? I'll never tell. If you're looking for a chill, quick to beat, free to play platformer on PC to just make time go by a little bit quicker, Fishy is definitely a game to look into. And it's with great pleasure that I give it the very first lit with a rating of 6 slightly wet fish sticks out of 10. Thanks for watching the official debut of Wack Lit. Hopefully it doesn't take us another year to put out a second review.
Okay. Here is that, but I'm a pirate. Okay, here we go. Arrgh! Ahoy, Captain! I'm sorry to bother you, me matey, but it's finally time for us to start that review channel we've been talking about. Elden Ring is still pretty popular these days, and there's also that new Borderlands, which is sure to get you tons of booty. Or there's the Kirby game that came out last month. You could try reviewing one of those if you want, Captain Arg. But instead you're reviewing Fishy like a clown. Arg. Like a true scallywag, you are reviewing Fishy instead of cool thing like Elden